appalling stories written about me in the various...
A first opportunity to tell the story in full. Royal Robinson needs no such reminders. He'd travelled from Germany to see for the first time where his daughter Shirley had died. Murdered whilst pregnant with Fred West's child. For a time she'd regarded Rosemary West as a friend.
I just couldn't realise that this could happen, you know, not in such a community. Well, my thoughts on Rosemary West is that where she is now, she should stay there and she should live a long life, yeah? And she does live till about 90, yeah? So that she remembers every day, yeah? The more she lives, yeah? That what she's done is...
Speculation over further victims, perhaps buried at this mill near Gloucester, or at this well-used public car park, haunts the inquiry team. Peter Bastholm, whose sister is still unaccounted for, says the investigation must continue.
I would hopefully think that the police would not shelve it now, and I don't think they will. I'd like them to carry on and, if you like, go into phase 2 of the investigations.
Late 20s, and she was 5'9".
More than 50 people have so far rung in to help identify 9 women missing since the 1970s. Whilst welcoming the public response, senior officers are stressing tonight that until they have firm and reliable evidence, no search operations will begin. Robert Hall, News at 10, Cheltenham.
The Bosnian peace deal got some crucial support today. The Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic summoned the Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic to Belgrade and persuaded him to go along with it. The deal would keep Karadzic, as a man indicted for war crimes, out of any public office in the new Bosnia. ITN's Andrew Simmons reports from Belgrade.
This could be an historic breakthrough. Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic has said yes to the Dayton peace deal signed only 2 days ago. Although they're unhappy...
He said he thought of us children, and he said he couldn't do it. No matter what we went through as kids, and no matter what he did, I always respected him and loved him. And life is hard without him. But I just wish he hadn't done what he'd done.
Our main aim throughout all of this was to keep the family together. And I think the saddest thing is that it's all split apart now anyway. And it's basically just left me and Stephen now. And that comes down from a family of 10.
And you can see the whole of that interview with May and Stephen West on Inside Story Special, Inside 25 Cromwell Street, tomorrow night at 10 o'clock on BBC One.
appears to have delivered what President Clinton wanted, compliance by the Bosnian Serbs. Without their political and military threats, his task of getting approval for US troop deployment from a skeptical Congress should be made easier. Andrew Simmons, News at 10, Belgrade.
The next head of MI5, the security service, was named today. He's Stephen Lander, L, the thriller writers might call him. He's specialised in work against espionage and terrorism and will take over from Stella Remington at Easter. Kevin Dunn reports on the man and the new role MI5 is now set to take on.
This is the face of the head of the once invisible security service. Stephen Lander, a career civil servant, has spent 20 years in intelligence and has risen to become MI5 specialist in counter-terrorism. But who is he and where has he come from? Mr. Lander is 48, the youngest officer to head MI5, and is married with 2 children. He was educated at Queen's College, Cambridge, where he took a PhD in history. He joined the security service in 1975, working on Soviet espionage in Britain, domestic subversion, and most recently counter-terrorism. He succeeds Stella Remington, the first spy boss to be publicly identified. She successfully started to bring MI5 out of the shadows, a process Mr. Lander is expected to continue. MI5 recently got the go-ahead to join the fight against drug dealers and organised crime, a role cautiously welcomed by the police.
I think it's important that we have democratic control over the law enforcement agencies, and if the security services are coming into this area, then it's important that they are accountable, and they will be, of course, if they're working closely with the police.
Mr. Lander will direct the agency from MI5's headquarters on the Thames. So the security service has a new head for a new era, in which it will broaden its responsibility, but face certain demands for greater accountability. Kevin Dunn, News at 10, Westminster.
Coming next on News at 10 tonight, the threat of nuclear time bombs ticking under Moscow. Plus, has Nick Leeson pulled off another amazing deal, this time to get a more lenient sentence? A tough choice for an airline over an overheated passenger. And since those Cromwell Street murders, has anything really changed for Britain's runaway youngsters?
A woman and a bloke come up to me and said, "Are you hungry?" and all that lot, brought me food, and they turned around and said, "We've got a spare room, if you want you can rent out in our house, we don't mind."
Welcome back. An extraordinary and, if true, a terrifying instance of nuclear terrorism came to light in Russia today. A TV station reported a claim by a notorious Chechen rebel leader that his people had buried 4 radioactive devices in and around Moscow. One such device was apparently found. Our Moscow correspondent Julian Mannion has the full story.
Police and troops have rushed to a park on the outskirts of Moscow following threats by the Chechen rebel leader Shamil Basayev. Basayev says that he has placed radioactive devices in 4 locations in Russia. The threats were made at a recent press conference that Basayev gave at a secret location in Chechnya. It was Basayev who earlier this year humiliated the Russian government with his savage terrorist attack on the hospital at Budyonovsk. Now Basayev says that the radioactive material, which he identified as cesium, is packed in containers surrounded with explosives and can be detonated at any time if the Russian army resumes full-scale military operations in Chechnya. To show he was not bluffing, the Chechen terrorist leader gave a Russian television reporter what he said was the location of one of the devices. And today the reporter dug up a package in the Moscow park that Basayev had identified. The TV crew's simple test appeared to show that the package was highly radioactive, and the television company immediately informed the authorities. The Russian security service first said that the package had no connection with the Chechens. Now they're refusing to comment at all. But it seems possible that this is, at the very least, a dramatic act of psychological warfare by the Chechen rebels, timed to coincide with Russia's election campaign. Julian Mannion, News at 10, Moscow.
The former Barings Bank trader Nick Leeson, who was extradited from Germany yesterday, will appear in court in Singapore tomorrow in about 3 hours from now. He faces fraud and forgery charges, but there's speculation that he may be planning one last deal to get off lightly. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Michael Nicholson reports from Singapore.
What you got to be back, Nick?
Nick Leeson came back in a back-to-front baseball cap. He boarded the aircraft in Frankfurt wearing a Manchester City supporters shirt. He came off